Confidence?
Yeah?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you. Just 2 more minutes and we'll start.
Can you see how many people have registered in yet?
I've got 23 in the meeting.
Okay, because I haven't got the bar at the bottom, so to right till the end of my lecture, I'll then stop sharing, and then I
Good morning, all.
I should be able to look at the questions then, shouldn't I?
Yeah. Okay, I think we can start, Chris. Good
Yes.
afternoon, everyone.
Hi, afternoon.
Have you muted
Thank you for
everybody?
joining us.
Confidence? Have they muted?
Excuse me?
Have you muted the people?
Yeah. If I can request for everybody to please mute before we start. On behalf of the organizing partners, I'd like to welcome each and every one of you today. And thank you for taking time to join us for this important and insightful session. Before we begin, I just want to go over some few housekeeping rules or points so that you have a smooth and engaging session. I would like for everybody to please be on mute throughout the whole presentation. This is to avoid any background noise or interruptions. And then we will have a dedicated question and answer session at the end. If you have any questions or comments, can you please type them in the chat box during the presentation? And then we encourage everybody to please participate. Please join me in welcoming our presenter, Mr. Chris Smallbone. He is a qualified mechanical and welding engineer, originally from Liverpool in the United Kingdom. He was the executive director of SIW from 1980 to 1993 and executive director of Welding Technology Institute of Welding from 1995 to 2014. He has extensive experience in education, training, skills, qualification, and certification in the welding-related industry. He has been involved in the work of the International Institute of Welding, or IIW for short, since 1974, and has held pivotal positions in the IIW, including being president in 2005 to 2008. He is now retired and is involved with the IIW and a number of countries in assisting them on a voluntary basis to improve their national welding capabilities and quality of life. With that, Mr. Smallbone, the floor is over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Confidence. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very wide subject I'm speaking on. What the idea is that this is a 1-hour webinar, and hopefully after the webinar, we'll be able to make contact with people with their needs, their challenges, get good feedback from them on how we can improve this particular area throughout the world and help countries improve their national welding capability. I am very happy that 132 people registered for the webinar, and we have 21 different countries in that list of registration, so that's excellent. Now, this is, as I said, a very wide subject, and what I intend to do is cover a multitude of slides, but each slide I'm only going to highlight a few words in that slide. The reason being, most of the text is in the document, Guides Note 5, that we did say in the brochure for people to download. But anyway, the main thing is that I will highlight what I see as the key points in the various subjects that we listed in the brochure. And afterwards, not just in the question time, but after the meeting, we can look at ways of possibly cooperating and collaborating, even including we're happy to help on a free 3-hour workshop on this subject for a group in a particular country. Because the idea, if we can improve the national welding capability, we can improve the global quality of life of people. So let's move ahead. And in all walks of life, whatever you want to do, there's a very good attribute called enthusiasm. Henry Ford made this. He said, enthusiasm's at the bottom of all progress. With it, there's accomplishment. Without it, they're only alibis. And that's something I believe we should all have if we want to improve everything we do in life. I'd also like to say thank you to the Welding Innovations Network, second dot there, the Canadian Welding Bureau, Heavy Engineering Research Association in New Zealand, Indian Institute of Welding, and Southern African Institute of Welding. They combined to form the Welding Innovations Network with the goal of providing free online training and technology transfer across the 4 regions of the world. And that's without the need and expense of bringing experts in to visit those countries. Now, recently in June at the IAW Annual Assembly in Genoa, this guidance was released, establishing a national welding capability, NWC Guidance Note GM5, implementing the education, training skills and careers building block. That is the document I was speaking about. So a lot of the slides I've taken out of the text in that document, and what I need to highlight, hopefully, in making some of the key points. One of the important things is if in your country you are looking to improve the whole education, training, skills and careers opportunity, you need basically to put a model together and using that model, work out how you can put in all the building blocks to help improve the national welding capability. I want to acknowledge the reviewers on that document, Miles Goodwin from the United Kingdom, Emmanuel from Ghana, Michael from New Zealand, Alan from Australia, Hugh McPhillips from United Kingdom, Vladimir from Brazil, and John Tarberton for South Africa. They gave all their time voluntary to help on this document, and I really appreciate that. I also appreciate the organisations who provided information on a voluntary basis. The American Welding Society, the Canadian Welding Bureau, the German Welding Society, the European Welding Federation, the Heavy Engineering Research Association, the IAW, the Indian Institute of Welding, the Southern African Institute of Welding, and TWI in the UK. Remember now, all this good information is going all around the world, free of charge on a voluntary basis from all these organisations. One of the key things we've got in every country as the population continues to grow, the pressures on manufacturing, infrastructure and power generation, not to mention basic needs such as food, water, shelter, health and education have become enormous common challenges. And that's why it's important in each of our countries to identify what are those key areas, those key sectors that we want to try to improve to help people and improve their quality of life. What I would like to explain initially is what is the welding industry. When I hear people talk about welding, they tend to talk about the welding process, the material, welders, inspectors. That's a very narrow perspective. The welding industry is taken as those organisations and people involved with the total life cycle of welded products and structures, including design, manufacture, fabrication, construction, conformity assessment, inspection and testing, operation, maintenance, repair and decommissioning, including recycling and other environmental conditions. and also the people engaged in and employing any of the organisations or people involved. Those people supplying welding equipment or consumables or materials to be welded. And last but not least, involved with education, training, qualification, certification, R&D, work health and safety standards and industrial relations aspects of welding. Here's a diagram showing this on the total life cycle of welded product. Sorry?
Can you please mute our mics, please? Thank you. Carry on, Chris.
This is a diagram showing the total life cycle of welded product and structures. If you take just that diagram, activity against time, there's the designer. Sorry?
The slides are not showing. Is it possible to put in presentation mode and also to show the slide? Yeah, just thank you.
What do you mean none of the slides are showing?
Is everybody seeing? I can see the slides.
It's only showing the first slide.
Mode.
Yeah, he's correct on my side as well. I don't see the slide. It's just the first page of the slide.
Well, confidence.
No slide here either.
So I've been talking to myself.
Okay, Chris, just press escape on your computer.
Pressed.
Okay, then slide from beginning. Just say from beginning there, just underneath.
We see something different now.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, it's probably.
Yeah, we see.
We can see a different slide. We just want it to be on presentation
and structures.
Can you see the 9th slide, the total life cycle?
Yes,
yep.
Yes, we can see that.
Yes, that's
The
correct.
total
We
life
can see
cycle.
that.
Just give me 30 seconds. I need to get a glass of water.
Okay. Can you please have mics on mute? Thank you.
Okay, everybody, I'm back now. Well, I'm not going to go back over the initial ones. I think you heard what I said. That was good enough. But just going back to the welding industry, as I said, it's the total life cycle of a welded product and structure. So it is a good diagram. To me, welding is that oil production platform. It's not just a material, a process, a welder, and a welding inspector. So you've got the different stages: design, engineering, manufacture, conformity assessment, operation, life extension, and decommissioning. And you can actually break those further down into other activities. Now this is important because when you come to look at the skills and the education and training requirements, you're looking at a really wide range of different people who make a welded product and structure to the right integrity and reliability and so on. Also, the welding industry, if you look at the different industry sectors, it's quite phenomenal. I've listed a whole lot there, and I think I've been involved in my career in practically every one of them. And welding has played a real key role in each of those. And later on, when I talk about an industry sector approach, that's what I mean about each of those being an industry sector. And in your country, you will have identified which are the key sectors applicable to welding in your country. Then when you look at the range of people, The research and development people. Researchers need education, training and skills. What about technology transfer and diffusion? All the different types of people there who develop the technology, make the technology, supply it, deliver it, and the people in the companies who have to take that technology, adapt it and use it. What about education training, all the lecturers, teachers, instructors and so on? Qualification, certification. The whole range, vast range of people in industry who are touched by the welding in their jobs. And then, of course, on the government side, regulators, departments of science, research, technology, and so on. And also, there are various targeted groups. If you're short of people, you've got to look at who can you train up. And there's a whole host. From kids, school children have to be trained at that right level so that later on they can move into the welding profession. School leavers, women and girls, young professionals, refugees, immigrants, retirees, prisoners, and people with special needs. So you have to look at that whole range of people. Also, when you come to the products I'm mentioning there, they're phenomenal. This Shell's Prelude floating liquefied natural gas facility, that's like the mothership and all the other ships feeding off it. When you look at the transportation industry, like some of those industry sectors I mentioned, when you look at the high performance welds, whether it's power stations, petrochemical plants, major bridges, whatever it is, welding really holds the world together in many ways. When you get down to computers and phones, they wouldn't work without welding and joining. And something I really like, because we actually ran a project on medical devices, how small things are. You take a human hair is probably about 70 micron. The project I was involved in, we were welding 6 micron. Can you believe it? Joining 6 micron. And when you get to medical devices, things have to go through the human body and they can't fail, got to be joined. So welding is a very, very important technology. Now, one other thing, if we're trying to promote education, training and skills with industry, with government and so on, one of the things I've been promoting is that we should also link them in with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Now, UN has 193 members. They set up a program called the UN 2030 with their 17 Sustainable Development Goals. You can go to ISO, IEC, UNIDO, UNESCO, the WFEO, and many other organisations support them. The IW, we have 53 member countries. There's a difference of 140 countries there. Look at the opportunities for cooperation and collaboration between countries. And that's why this National Welding Capability Project that we have established will ensure cooperation and collaboration. And besides improving the quality of life, it'll also improve the SDGs. There's the actual goals. But the key ones for this area, quality education, number 4. Number 9, industry innovation infrastructure. And hopefully all those help to reduce poverty throughout the world. So this is where they all link together, in my opinion. And in the objectives that I'll be showing later, in our plan of a page, strategy 7A, that talks about aligning the model that we set up on education, skills and careers with the SDGs, but where appropriate with the needs, resources and viable projects. Now, there's a gentleman called Born Lumberg. I would recommend to all of you, look at his references. So you ever come across, go on the internet. He has a lot of common sense. These SDGs, when you look at the targets, there's something like 169 of them. No country can be tackling that many targets. But what Born promotes is the country should look at what its needs are, what resources it has available, and what viable projects can it implement. And then that bottomed up point, he quotes projects like in Malawi at school age, how they're bringing on the school children very, very quickly through better teaching techniques and so on. So there's a lot to learn from these things that are going to help us in the welding industry and provide the people for the future. If you want to know all about the Sustainable Development Goals, there is a link to Wikipedia shown there, and that's in the document. Now, you might think, how do other organisations, other disciplines, move their discipline along with the SDGs and so on? Well, let's take the engineering discipline. Back in 1969, UNESCO, which is the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, it helped form the World Federation of Engineering Organizations, WFEO. So in Australia, for example, Engineers Australia. If you go to the UK, Institution of Mechanical Engineers, and so on. These are high-level organizations, and they're actually in more than 100 countries. Well, back in March 21, UNESCO published a report titled Engineering for Sustainable Development, Delivering on the Sustainable Development Goals. We got to know about that and said, God, this is really good. This is where the engineering industry is saying, how can it help improve the SDGs and obviously improve the quality of life? Also, organizations like ISO, they've developed guidelines last year, and these guidelines help organizations put in a practical framework to implement the SDGs into their operational strategic plans. So what did we do in the welding field? We set up a task group, and in May 2024, we came out with a whole report, a short report and two long reports on the importance of a country's welding industry, its national welding capability, and their significance to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. That report's been distributed globally. There's the front cover of the short report. All the links are available into the long report as well. And in long report 2, it gives lots and lots of projects for the welding industry, including education and training and skills that can be put in place against the SDGs. Now, a marketing viewpoint of all these things I'm saying to you is, if you want to go to aid agencies like UNIDO, UNESCO, and so on, all of those organizations support the SDGs. And in your country or your organization or your training center, if you can show that you're supporting the SDGs through all the initiatives you're putting in place on education, training and skills and so on, obviously you've got far better opportunities for cooperation, collaboration, funding and so on with these international and national aid organizations. There's the task group we set up. Deepak from India, Doran from Romania, Michael from New Zealand, Lewis from Brazil, Rosario from the IW Secretariat, Dorothy from Germany, and John Tarbert from South Africa. And then we also had reviewers, Rituraj from India, Troy from New Zealand, Emmanuel from Ghana, Doug from Canada, and Srini from India. Very, very impressive teams. And all these people have put these efforts in because they believe that by joining these together, all our efforts at education and training and skills with SDGs, with the National Will and Capability Project, we can really make a big effect. And in fact, the 7 reports from Brazil, Ghana, India, New Zealand, Nigeria, Romania, and South Africa, freely available on the websites on how each country has tried to link these things together. Now, back in January 1994, the President of IW, the Secretary General, and myself, we went to UNIDO in Vienna and proposed to them a model for Africa. In other words, particularly in education and training and technology transfer, how could we help improve the quality of life in Africa? We ended up initiating the IW WellCare program. People like UNIDO over the years, the IEA, European Union, individual countries have supported these initiatives, and in particular, IW supported setting up educational support centre networks and technology support centre networks, which I'll mention later on. In 2013, IW decided to expand that whole project into the National Welding Capability Project. And the key to this project was to assist the country's industry, government or members to achieve the following objectives: to identify the welding-related needs in the country and provide solutions to ensure the country's future sustainability in relation to those needs. So what are the needs of your country? To implement the country's own national welding capability project as what we call a flagship program. Then to identify the country's existing capability and consolidate the existing welding-related building blocks in the country to create the basis for a national welding capability. Then to analyse and identify the improvements required for the existing building blocks, as well as what additional building blocks are required in the country. And then to create the mechanism and process to establish and maintain the country's sustainable national welding capability. To do all this, you need a lot of persistence. It doesn't just happen overnight. And Calvin Coolidge, the 30th President of the United States, had a great saying, which is nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men of talent. Genius will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent, all-powerful. The slogan "Press on" has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. So when we talk about models for education, training, skills and careers, qualification, certification, it is going to need a lot of persistence from the people that get into this sort of project to build things up. And I just want to highlight the South African Institute of Welding. Back in January 1980, we actually started with 3 small rooms as offices with 3 staff in a suburb of central Joburg called Braamfontein. A year later, we rented the NDT practical facility from British Engine, plus 3 rooms as offices with 6 staff. A year later, we rented 2 floors of the same company as offices, plus a training room, plus the NDT practical facility we rented from the previous year. And that took us to 14 staff. And then in January 85, besides the above practical facility, we opened a practical welding facility in City West, including having 2 disused site construction offices on the car park as classrooms. That was funded by industry donations plus their income, and at the time costed the equivalent of $1.5 million. But industry had helped us get to that stage as we built up the credibility. And then in January 86, we built a second phase, but to do that, we had to borrow government money off the government, the equivalent of $1.5 million at the time, at 13% interest. There must be other good examples around the world that people could share. So all of us can learn from the examples around the world to build up our own. And one of the key issues, though, when you do go for funding and grants, whether it's for a training course or whether it's for build a facility or build up a national welding capability project, you must show people that you're not going to be losing money each year, because people don't like putting money into bottomless pits, and that's the SIW progress right through to 1990. But you notice we always made sure we were in the plus situation. That's the 2 rooms we had here in Braamfontein. There's the 2 floors we had with the NDT facility, and this is the facility now that Confidence is sitting in. There's the practical welding facility. That was the X-ray base we had set up. This is the second phase where all the NDT training, classrooms, offices and so on. And that was in 1986, and it's moved on since then. So whatever we try to do in our countries, it's going to take that persistence and enthusiasm for everybody to move forward. Now, on a national welding capability project, one has to appoint, we believe, a lead organisation. And in the document, we listed a whole lot of criteria for such an organisation. It could be an existing welding institute in a country. It could be a research organisation or whatever. A good example is we have set up a resource centre in the IW, all freely available. you can go onto the IW Internet website and download documents free of charge. This one by Dorothy Steele back in '88 gave an example there. If you're going to set up a national welding capability project and build up the welding technology in a country, we identified some key areas. You either got to establish them or improve them. That's the support infrastructure provided by the welding industry, the R&D, tech transfer and diffusion, national and international networks, education, training, skills and careers, qualification and certification of both individual and companies, appropriate cultures, communication and marketing, and you've got to resource all the strategies and actions. That's a big thing to do. And our approach, our recommended approach is country sets up a flagship program and it takes an industry sectorial project strategy approach to succeed. And in the IW, we set a goal to set up all these guidance notes for each of those items I've just mentioned. And this guidance note 5 is the one for education, training, skills and career paths. There's the front cover of the book. And what I want to do, it might be a little bit boring at this stage in terms of goal, objectives and so on and strategies, but I think they're quite important because to me they are the means to achieving good things for your country. Now, a typical goal is to implement and sustain the education, training, skills and careers building block of a national welding capability. To achieve the goal, there are 5 objectives here. The first one is aimed at getting sustainable industry and government support. The second one is to sustain a national education, training, skills and careers infrastructure. The third one is to continuously maintain sustainable number, type and level of people, careers personnel. If you don't have the personnel, all the educators, the trainers, the teachers and so on, you won't get anywhere. The next objective, you've got to set up all the right education, training, courses and resources. So you're going to turn out the required number of people the country needs each year. And the 5th objective, to get the marketing promotion right, the tech transfer and diffusion right, the legal aspects, intellectual property, commercialization alliances and networks. These 5 objectives, I believe, form the model that a country would need. Now, some countries will already have a lot of these things in place. Where we're starting from here is imagine you're in a country where you basically don't have anything and you've got to build it up. So the idea of what we're doing here is to say, well, here's a model. If you were starting from scratch, here's the strategies you would need to put in place and possible action plans. So people in the audience who are already from countries where you've got many of these things in place, the idea is, well, how can you improve what you've got in place? Where are the gaps? And I'm hoping I can show you by identifying some of the strategies, some of the things that can be a benefit to do that, whether you're a developed country or developing country. So what we try to do is put things on a plan on a page. There's the goal I read out to you earlier. There's the 5 objectives. And for each of those objectives, we've got 7 strategies. Each of those strategies carefully thought out, all the words, and later on in the document, each of those strategies got a typical action plan to get things started. And what I'd like to do is, under each of those objectives, just highlight some of the strategies and give you some of the experiences that people have helped me, and I've helped others on as well, to put in place. People from around the world have been very helpful on their experiences. Now, the benefits, by the way, of the plan on the page are that what they do, they act as a roadmap. For everybody who participates, it's a roadmap. But not just that, it also shows the progress, efficiencies, performance and quality of the outcomes of the project as you're moving along. And also, very importantly, it assists any person or organisation to understand why the project exists, what's expected from the project, how it will achieve its expectations, and the potential role for each person or organisation in the project and what are the expected outcomes. And in the document, we've actually got a lot of the benefits of it, which you can use to sell to people for funding and everything else. So let's just kick off with a couple of the strategies. In Objective A, here's where you're trying to get sustainable industry and government support for whatever you're doing. So 1A, examine and analyse how other countries have done this. If you're going to move towards a best practice model, what have other people done? And secondly, having moved along that direction, how are you going to fund it? If you decide how you're going to set a model up, how are you going to fund such a programme, whether it's government, industry, aid agencies or whatever? And a third strategy I mentioned here, which I find people fall down when they go to industry and governments for money, and especially when they go for millions of dollars, and often people don't give proper reports showing the progress and achievement of the model, including its value and benefits to the country, industry, governments, individuals and other stakeholders. I can quote you lots of examples where people have been given $3 million to do this, that and the other, but they don't keep reporting and showing all the stakeholders how good the achievements are. Because the beauty of that is you go back and get more support from people, not just in money, but in other kinds of support. I'll mention a few of those. So there are things like the history of welding in Australia, David Barnett wrote. I mentioned Dorothy Steele one. IIW wrote a history of welding from 1990 to 2015. Lots and lots of good examples in there, how countries have put in place the education, training, skills and careers. And you can go to individual organisations like AWS, the Chinese AMB and AMBCC, the Canadian, the German Welding Society, New Zealand, India, the Japanese, CAS Welding Kazakhstan, TWI and IW. All of these are good examples to go and look at and learn from their experiences, what works, what doesn't work, and so on. Now, in the document, one of the important things we showed right at the beginning is the value and importance of welding. It's important to be able to not be hesitant about telling people how good the industry is that you're in and how good the training you're doing. These people are all important to an economy of a country. So we've given some really good examples in the document of the value of welding. But as you're doing things, whether you're running a training course in a college or whether you're running a National Welding Institute or running a big project, at some stage, you've got to show the value of the products and services that you're doing. And what I'd like to highlight is TWI, back in the period 94 to 99, they had a joining forces program. Bob John was the leader of this. He subsequently became the CEO of TWI. They had a magnificent program aimed at small, medium enterprises. It was a 15 million program, as it mentions there. But in 2000, the UK government, I think they went out to 100 companies in the UK saying, hey, how valuable was that program to you? And from that, we came up with a method of valuing the outcomes of the project. I was working very closely with TWI at that stage, and we did the same with our government in Australia in 1998. I said to them I was going to come back every 3 years for more grants and that, and same with the industry for more money to continue all the strategic plans we had. And the government said, well, you'd have to show us value for money evaluation. And the minister, for every dollar we give you in a grant, you'd have to return at least $10 for the value for the industry. And that's what we did. And in 2018, here in New Zealand, we actually did the same thing with them, and they showed their industry and their government the fabulous return that they were giving to the Australian economy by using a similar method. Now, those methods, they're freely available. If anybody wants to, you can always contact me afterwards, and I'll help voluntary to give you them. Also, coming back to the people you train, a wonderful report back in 2003 in America with the AWS. There was a national shipbuilding research program, and at the Bender Shipbuilding Repair Company, they did an evaluation of the value of a welding supervisor. So by employing a qualified welding supervisor, they reckon a company could save up to $17,044 per welder per year. And they broke all that down. Now, this is the kind of thing, if you can show people the real value of what you're doing, you're likely to get more and more support, not just in the money side, but more students, more training courses, more help on resources, all the good things, better facilities and so on. On the other hand, there's also the cost of weld failures to show people how well things are going or not going. In other words, can you put a value on the failures? Back in 1980, when I was Executive Director of SIW, we took a proposal to the South African government, and what we highlighted was for the previous decade, the list of what we call failures, defects and everything. What did it cost the South African economy in that 10 years on all the various projects? And they took it, they agreed with it. In 1970, Frank Coe from the Welding Institute in the UK, he estimated the cost of industrial losses due to weld failure, either in fabrication or in service, was over £400 million per year. That was 1% of the UK gross national product. If you look in America, one of the top labs there, the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, they published a detailed report on the cost of fracture of the US economy in 1982. They estimated it would represent 4% of the US gross domestic product at 1982 levels. Now you might say, well, failures, why do we get failures these days? But we do. Only last month at the Welding Institute in the UK, at the members meeting, a gentleman called Keith Burkett gave a presentation. He's from the Health and Safety Executive. This report's available. The link is in the report document we did on how welding's gone wrong on this high-level fabrications in the industry. And if you look in the press, you'll see on the roads like the A1 going from south to north, close to the northeast, bridges closed down because of new bridges being built found to have defects in them. Why should these things be occurring in this day and age? So these are things you can be showing your governments and industry that improving defect rates, failures, reliability and integrity in service, you should get greater support on numbers of trainees, funding of trainees and so on. And last but not least, a lot of the countries I speak to, like in Africa, when projects come off, suddenly they bring in lots and lots of people from overseas because the local people are not supposed to be able to competent to do them. That's a failure cost. In fact, that was one of the costs I used back in 1980 with the South African government. How much does it cost to bring in lots of people from overseas to do the work that if education and training and qualification certification was top class in your country, you don't need to bring so many people in. So learning from failures is excellent as well. Also, when you come to funding support, there's a thing called market failure that you really need to be able to show governments and industry, and I've defined that in the document. But what I'd also like to show you is that even in industry, people are very helpful, I've found. I'll give an example in South Africa. Sasol, which is a major petrochemical company, they actually sponsored the chair of welding engineering at SIW for a 3-year period when we needed welding engineers and technologists training. And the South African Rolled Steel Producer Coordinating Council, they did a survey of industry to say what were the shortcomings of SIW in being able to support industry. And they ended up putting about, at those days, 1989, $500,000 in a year, and enabled us to recruit 8 consultants to assist the industry on a subsidized fee basis. You can go to companies producing materials, for example, aluminium, carbon steel, stainless, or selling equipment like welding and NDT. I found them always very, very helpful if they see credibility in the organisation to help, particularly in education, training and research and development. And companies have many ways donating materials or equipment, either permanently or on loan. Same with colleges and companies. In Australia, all the colleges were very helpful in allowing their rooms and practical facilities to be used free of charge for training, or as holding examinations or technology awareness and demonstration forums. If you go on their websites, the AWS and CWB group, you'll see examples of how they're helping schools and colleges fund resources and facilities in the education area. In places like New South Wales, where I live, the technical colleges, the infrastructure is provided by the government. But the government also encouraged private providers to be able to use those facilities and resources outside the hours used by the colleges, so as not to conflict with the TAFE activities. And a very important way of getting great support is grouping companies with similar needs and being able to leverage their financial commitments with government grants can lead to increased funding available for projects. And I'll show you some examples of what we call our WTA smart groups. And TWI has research groups and joint industry projects. So this concept can be used by anybody in any country to get groups with similar needs together to really maximize and optimize input from them. And in the document and in the resource center IW, we've actually put in 3 documents from the Australian government which enabled WTI, before I retired, where we actually got, there's $10 million there worth in grants, 4 separate grant programs, all matched by industry money, and then in kind. So that was a $25 million program, all put together through having the right people supporting the government grant programs from industry and so on. So there's plenty of good things. Also on the aid and aid donor agency internationally, I'll give you a couple of examples. In Africa, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IEA, supported the SIW as the English-speaking organisation, and sent him up in Tunisia as the French-speaking one to basically train for the last, 25 years or so, people in non-destructive testing. And more recently, they've actually helping South African Institute of Welding set up advanced NDT training in conjunction with an organisation called Nexa in Pretoria. This is fantastic. And so the opportunities are out there if you go forward the right model, the right credibility and the right approach. How do you then do a needs analysis? How do you do a funding proposal? Well, the key thing in strategy 3A I show there is you've got to come up with the structure and program of how to get companies participating. You've got to show them the benefits of networking, collaboration, sharing funding contribution, sharing resources and facilities and commercial benefits. And you've also got to set up workshops in what I use the word industry cluster groups, whether it's geographical, sectoral, the asset owners, the people who own the power stations, petrochem companies, the users, suppliers, all those people, you need to be getting them into groups so that you can actually sell to them, and not use that word, why they should be supporting your projects. I want to give you the example of what we did in Australia very quickly to show you how it can be done. We had what we call the Oswald Technology Support Centres Network. We had smart groups. Right from 98, we started setting up groups of the asset owners, the power station owners, one group, petrochemical companies, another group, pipeline companies, another group, shipbuilding manufacturers, another group, and so on. Industry-specific groups, small groups of fabricators in a particular geographic region or industry sector. Technical panels, these are panels of experts that was established way back in the 1960s in line with the IW technical commissions. And then technology expert groups to help set up the expert technology tools. For example, they're going to transfer technology. Then research and development centres, both national and international. But 2 key groups now that I believe any developing country could implement relatively quickly. One is technology support centres, both national and international, and the other is the IW approved training bodies network, or as we did, WTA approved training centres. Those groups were fabulous in that they supported us, more than 200 companies in each of these groups. So imagine how many people involved. So that was, there's the numbers we had. We only had 23 staff, including 13 international qualified engineers. Why? Because all these other groups were actually doing a lot of the work for the national welding capability. And that's the way it's got to be, a win-win situation where everybody feels part of basically a national approach, a national project. And I used this diagram back in 2003, believe it or not, to show a research conference in America, what had been achieved. Now this has grown since, but what you've got here basically is the Oswald Technology Support Centres network. That grew to about 59 organisations, both locally and internationally. These are the research centres, nationally and internationally. These are the technology expert groups. I've only showed 5 there. These are the smart groups. These are the industry-specific groups. This is the national network of IW approved training bodies, and those are those technical panels. Now it looks complex, but once people get into it, and I believe any developing country, even starting off from a low base of welding technology, could use this network and this network to great effect to really improve the education and training and technology transfer. Here's an example of the smart groups, our road transport, all the major organisations, rail, pressure equipment, aluminum industry, inspection and testing, petrochem, pipelines, power gen. Technology support centres network. In your own countries, you've got universities, you've got colleges. All these people want to be, if you sell it to them correctly, part of that support centres network. The ESABs, the Lincoln Electrics, the BHPs, the steel people, all the people on the equipment supplying, all those would want to be part of those technology support centres network. And then overseas, if you look at the names there, they're fantastic from all around the world. And we had all these people linked in to our technology transfer mechanisms in Australia. And there's no reason why many of these organisations would not help any of your countries. There's the technical panels that were already set up when I arrived in Australia. These are the specific groups we set up, fabricators. These are the approved training bodies which we brought in under the IW. Every one of these, the A and B was WTIA, and it approved all these. And you'll notice at the bottom, New Zealand became an approved training body under Australia in 2000. And in 2007, they set up their own authorised national body. Sensible way to go. And there's the rest of them. Very, very impressive networks, these. And what are the beauties of it? I'll give you a simple example. All the main centres in Australia, of course, were well resourced. But up the coast, say in Gladstone, which is up north of Brisbane, we had a technology manager based there. His job was to coordinate in one of those industry-specific groups. Why? In that Gladstone, we had 2 major end users, a power station and an alumina smelter. We also had a group of fabricators and manufacturers, and they were actually sponsored by the Queensland government. And we also had an IW training body at the local TAFE. And between that group, they took care of all the technical support for the industry in the region and also the training aspects. And of course, that industry-specific group is supported by that whole network I showed you earlier. Unless you talk to governments, you never know what they want to do and what they have to offer. So, for example, in New South Wales, they set up a programme called Targeting Skills Needs in Regions programme. We went to see them. Hold it. What about the Hunter region in New South Wales, the Illawarra, Western Sydney, Central Coast, North Coast? So they gave us money to help on technology transfer into those regions, including improving the skills of the people in those different regions. And that was a 3-year project. So talking to governments and showing governments programs from anywhere really helps. Now, the disappointing thing on countries, my own experience is people don't do a proper analysis of industry's needs and demands. I hear people talk about, oh, we need 60,000 welders, or we need this, need that. But they've never really analysed properly what they need. And I showed you the whole range of people earlier, whether it's in research, tech transfer, whatever it is, lots and lots of types of different people need the skills to do their jobs properly. You can go into the IW Resource Centre and you'll see a questionnaire there with 20 questions on. That report is that questionnaire can be used, and you'll see that it can be used to help you really analyse your own country in terms of its needs. And we use that at IW. This Mosgas project's all there. That's probably one of the best projects I've ever been involved in, where the industry really got to do its needs properly. And the same here. And with the WTA in 2006. And here you've got an example of this Mosgas training, which was fantastic. And all I've said is many of these things. Now, I just realised I'm really running out of time. Excuse me. So a flagship programme is very important. And to me, setting an industry sectorial project is important to do. And you pick your sectors and you go for them in terms of involving leading firms, small, medium enterprise, supply chains, education training, R&D organisations, tech specialists, and so on. You get all these involved in the industry sector project. And that's what our Technology Support Centres network was all about. You do your needs analysis, you get your solutions, and you transfer those solutions into the overall industry. When it comes to the building block and the model, I believe before you start, there's a whole lot of cultures, and we're doing a separate guidance note on that. But in the model, the first thing I believe in, you need actually a lead organisation to be identified in a country. Someone's really going to lead the project with all the other people as part of the team and organisation part of the team. You have to have membership categories to be able to give those people feeling of ownership and those companies feeling of ownership in it. I also recommend you become an authorised national body in the IW. To do that, though, it means getting help to get all the instructors trained and qualified at the university and colleges and the practical training centres, upgrading those centres and ending up with a network of IW-approved training bodies. Then you can train all the different people, both to the IW programmes and any other programme you have to train to satisfy another country's specifications. Also set up an AMBCC for company certification. So you're in the position to be able to certify companies to the ISO 3834 and continually do needs analysis every year on what are needed with personnel and companies. And then, of course, create the networks, but in particular, the two I mentioned, Technology Support Centres Network and Approved Training Body Network. To do this, you must do a situation analysis. I'll guarantee out of all the countries, very few ever do a proper situation analysis of exactly what exists in the country on facilities, resources, expertise, and capabilities. You're then going to be able to harness all those facilities, capacities, technologies, lecturers, trainers somehow in a win-win situation for everybody. And you've also got to be able to cooperate and collaborate with the government industry infrastructure that's already set up. There's organisations, for example, who do the apprenticeship awards and so on. And Miles Goodwin, one of our reviewers, he wrote an excellent document for the UK on infrastructure and systems of welding education and training. And I'd recommend you get that document out of the resource centre that we've got, and you do one for your own country. Then you get to really know what exists in the country in terms of you succeeding. You've also got to try and upgrade all those centres we were talking about, but also in particular perform future directions in terms of the technologies they're going to need. You can't keep working in technologies that are going out of fashion. If you're going to build nuclear power stations in that industry sector, what technologies do they need training on, and so on. So you end up with this cohesive network of infrastructure, facilities, and resources. And you end up with the career paths and routes available. What about the lecturers? You need to know what the training qualification requirements for the lecturers are. You need programs to help upgrade them. And also implement things like study missions, technology fusion mechanisms, expose them to overseas and local experts. They need training on the latest technology and teaching techniques. We used to run these awareness things on site for people. This is Teletest, TWI's program. This was an NDT thing we set up to show people, give them they would never get the experience in their normal jobs, the college say, but giving them this together in some kind of facility really helps them upgrade. And the welding coordination team, again, I tend to see people just think about maybe a welding engineer, a welder, inspector. In ISO 34 and ISO 14731, the responsible welding coordinator was brought in to basically show you're complying with that standard, but it also mentioned the welding coordination team in there. And I'm a great believer that you set something up, think like this, in terms of the people that need training. You need the responsible welding coordinator. That I might be an international welding engineer, technology specialist. But what about the project people managing the welding projects? What about the estimators, planning people, the purchasing, the contracts people? They need to be trained, so you need short courses for them. What about the designers? What about welding coordinators on health and safety, the environment and the quality control? There's your welding inspectors, but what about fabrication inspectors? What about the NDT personnel, welding supervisors? Where are the stores personnel, the people who spend time controlling all the equipment, consumables and materials? Leading hands who control the welders on the shop floor. Where are the maintenance personnel on the equipment and everything else? And of course, all the different types of welders you need. So basically, you've got to be able to set up the qualifications, certifications and the training to meet that whole range of people in the welding industry. And because we're also dealing in a global market, I drew this up many years ago, I've expanded it since, showing for all the different countries what their qualifications and certifications are for all the different types of personnel and the different companies. Because at some stage, you're going to have to show that the people you're training and getting skills for meet these overseas specifications. IW has a fantastic thing set up from 2000. I see I've got about 10 minutes left. I'll do this in the next 10 minutes. The IW's issued over 200,000 diplomas for all the different types of personnel. And they've actually qualified or certified 3,448 companies since last year. So getting into that program is an essential thing for every country, I believe. And every developing country should be assisted. You need models to show the careers for the people. You also need to look at mentors, whether in industry side, particularly for the apprentices and so on, and also the mentors in the education facilities. You need to have activities all the time showing the importance of welding and the image of welding and reward and appreciation programs. And again, in the document, we give lots and lots of examples. I couldn't put this on a slide, but this is the thing we did in 2014, showing career paths from apprentice to welding engineer. And I can send you this document, but you see all the different types of job positions. The the young person go from right up to the top level. Here's an example showing the welding coordination side of the industry. Here's an example showing the welding inspection side, showing how the people can move from one position to another position through education, training, qualification and certification. And examples on these welding coordination on OH&S, environment and quality control. In terms of the ideal practical training centre, we did a survey in 2020 all around the world, and I was quite disappointed. Some centres were very good, but a lot of centres, I think they did need help. They were so keen, the people I dealt with, excellent, but the thing is, sorry. So we sent this questionnaire around the world, and if you go to strategy 60, page 110 to 112, you'll see the results of what we believe the ideal practical training centre would be like. One of the key points I'd like to make, I can't go through every detail that each of these subjects is a webinar on its own, but I believe every practical welding training centre is like a little fabrication company. So you should be able to take the elements of ISO 3834 and ISO 14731 and introduce those into the welding training centre. Assist the companies improve their management performance and quality and productivity. And I'm hoping to draw up a document. We can draw up a document to help training centres do that. And I've already involved people from training centres in this matter. But that to me is a key issue. But please have a look, those who run practical training centres, at that strategy 6D, and I'd love feedback. Virtual reality markets coming in, as you know, all over. And this was a recent thing from yesterday about augmented and virtual reality market, not just in welding, but right across the market, going to $96 billion by 2029. And when you come to apprentices, most of us don't have much control on apprenticeships because the government industry organisation control that. But some ideas for apprentices, for example. Why not in the final year of apprenticeship? Shouldn't they take the IW Welding Inspection Basic Level qualification or a similar national training one? Think an exemption from the training. The training might be only 6 days. By getting that diploma, as they qualify, and now the welders, they will be inspecting their own welds visually as they complete welded sections, improving both the quality and productivity. And maybe 5 years later, as they got more experience in the welding business, they can apply to be examined to be a certified welding inspector. Also, with the international welder, you know, in around the world, we have lots of non-artisan welders. In Africa, for example, lots of examples of roadside welders. This IW program is excellent for that. Every level of welder, every developing country, I believe, could introduce this. And this is based originally on all the German standards. Then they came the EWF standards, and then IW adopted them. And there's a lovely reference document about welding instructors in our resource centre, which Ruth and Italo from ISQ wrote about welding instructors in Portugal. On training resources, on our strategy 2D, 3D, there's lots of resources around the world. And here again, we're all here trying to help organisations get them for the whole range of welding inspectors, fabrication inspectors, pressure equipment inspectors, bolting inspectors, and so on. So there's lots of good examples. South Africa, Australia, ASME, National Board for all the different types of inspectors. There's now bolting supervisors and inspectors, the standards set up in Australia. The American Institute of Steel Construction has a bolting course. And we're research and designers. We have great things with the National Structural Integrity Research Centre, TWI. Same in New Zealand. And IW had fantastic research and collaboration colloquiums For some reason, they discontinued them, but they were brilliant. For example, by the way, here's the New Zealanders training researchers in New Zealand, which is a brilliant move. And when you see, and that's in a country with 4 million people. When you go to the UK system I just mentioned, that's fascinating. It's fantastic. So again, we can learn from all levels and sizes of countries. There's an example in Hyderabad of the Welding Research Collaboration Colloquium. All the people who attended that for over 2 days. And then I mentioned earlier the stores personnel, 2 days courses, specifiers, 1 day courses, mentors, then all these different targeted groups. I'd say if you go and look on the websites, you'll see examples of how, and in our document, of how people are catering for these, particularly school teachers. Here's an example in Nigeria. That's mentioned in the document. Brilliant, these things going on. In India, with Inox Limited, fantastic. In Canada, this is they have a 1 week course for women, brilliant. Educators, fantastic course for educators. All these things are the sort of things we can learn from everybody else and implement in our own countries. And then last but not least, the marketing promotion. By cooperating and working together rather than working in silos, we should be implementing national campaigns to promote the programs right throughout the total industry, getting the processes going, and also success stories. Sell yourself. Here's a good example in IW. This was a South African Institute of Welding training people, disadvantaged people. I haven't got the number 4, which was the AWS, fantastic success story on promoting the image of welding around the world. And the other thing is, don't be shy. These were the SIW showing off all the welding supervisors, the committees, and all the training going on. No one else. You've got to showcase all the great education, training, and skill stuff that you do in your own countries. Let people see how strong welding technology is. And finally, possible roles for IW. We should be encouraging non-member IW countries to cooperate and collaborate with IW and its members. Encourage aid and donor agencies to support the projects. Promote industry sectorial project approaches to countries. Encourage each country to have a flagship programme. Give guidance on business plans and flagship programs, and including raising funding. And build up an extensive resource centre, which is exactly what we're doing, and it's freely available to everybody. And the last slide, I showed this in 1982, believe it or not, in America. Here we had the best of first world technology, 600 megawatt boilers. And 100 meters away, you got a little African hut with no electricity. My greatest satisfaction, I think, for most of everybody, will be when people have got electricity all around the world and got power, because that helps people improve the quality of life. So I'll conclude there with 4 attributes of enthusiasm, persistence, cooperation, collaboration, that if we all work together in this cooperative, collaborative way, we can improve the quality of life of people globally. Well, I'll finish there, and based on my timing, I was about 1 minute over, so I apologise for that. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you found it interesting. A hell of a lot to take in, but please, afterwards, please feel free to contact me, and we can even help further with information and workshops and things like that. So thank you very much, Confidence. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Chris. I think there was a great presentation that can help everybody here that's on the call on how they can increase their national capabilities. And I think you've highlighted a very important thing where we have to do a needs analysis. And I think that's where most of the countries that are trying to set up welding institutions fail. If there's any questions, I'm not seeing anything on the chat. I see Miles, your hand is up. You can go ahead, please. Miles Goodwin.
Sorry?
Miles?
I haven't had a question at all. Can I ask a question then, Confidence?
We do have a couple of hands up.
Okay.
Somebody's sharing the screen. Who's this? Have you stopped sharing from your side, Chris?
I just
Maybe
turned off
stop
my
sharing.
thing. I don't know where to say stop sharing. Do I press the share?
Okay, we can continue. Ufuku? You can go ahead. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong.
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, please go ahead with your question.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Chris. That was really great. Thank you very much for that. Mr. Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I appreciate your comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As my question is, right now, I am working in Belgium as the welding engineer, and I want to develop my level for the attend good companies. And I am curious that do you suggest any certificate or the training without that welding engineer for me? Thank you very much.
Are you already a welding engineer, international welding engineer?
Yes, I am. I took it from the Germany IWE diplomate, but I didn't take any more diplomate and certificate for me. So that I am open the suggestion for the taking which certificates or the training will be improve my talent and the level, because of I want to attend the good companies like Incas Renegas or something. Thank you very much.
Okay, what I would suggest is, I know in Europe, quite a few of the countries run the comprehensive welding inspector course of IW, and you're an international welding engineer, so you can go straight across to the comprehensive level, and that gives you that high level knowledge on welding and on inspection. That's a very good standard, a very good level. So that would be, if you can afford the time, and I can't remember the exact hours now, but that would be my first recommendation. It depends what kind of work you want to do as well. Do you want to sit in the design office, or do you want to be like in a fabrication company or on a construction site? To me, if you want to do the fabrication construction, then the comprehensive welding inspector, to me, would be the best recommendation.
And thank you very much. And also right now I am working in construction site. Everyone thinking that the welding engineers need to focus of the quality, but I don't think so, because of I am working in construction site every time. I am working as piping supervisor right now, but generally I focus on the weldings.
Going back to the welding coordination team, I think it's a question of saying, what are all the activities that need controlling in the company, and what are you responsible for? So you will be responsible for some, obviously, quality activities, but you might have other people doing it. So I would be actually suggesting that you are the responsible welding coordinator with ISO 3834, but make sure that you've got all the activities fully thought out and approved by the senior management as to what you're responsible for. And some of those would be the quality side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you very much. ISO 3834. Right now we are working with this standard also. And our construction is 3834 section B right now. All of the quality is continue on that site. And then right now I am thinking that to buy CSW 3.1. What do you think about that, sir?
But you're talking about a C-SWIP 3.1 welding inspector.
That's true.
Yeah, but that's too low for you. With due respect, the comprehensive one is what you would need at that level you're at. Seriously, you can go straight across to the comprehensive level and you'll cover all the stuff on C-sub 3.1. That's the same as the IW basic course. So I would recommend that you go for the comprehensive. But what you can also do, if you send me an email, I'm happy to send you a document I produced quite a few years ago on all the tasks for the responsible welding coordinator. And that might help you in your thoughts, should we call it, in your thinking.
Yeah, right now I have a free time for taking this, and I am open for your recommendation, sir.
Okay, so you're actually living in Belgium?
Yes, I am living
Okay.
in Belgium, Antwerp.
Okay, well, go along to the Belgian Welding Institute and speak to them.
Thank you very much for that. I'm
Sure.
really open right now to taking certificate.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. And then we've got Aubrey, who has his hand up. Aubrey, please go ahead.
Yes, thanks very much, Chris, for the presentation, as well as the people who put this together. I actually raised two questions in the chat. The first one was, do we have access to this thing after the presentation, after today's presentation? In other words, if you just go back to see the slides and so on, do we have access to that?
To the slides?
Yes.
No, they're
Well,
all
if
in
it's
the,
shared-
everything is in the text in the document.
All right.
What I'd
Yeah, no,
suggest you
thanks.
do, send me an email with any particular things you need.
100%. Thanks very much, Chris. The second question is, there's this issue about AI coming to the fore in welding,
Yeah.
and there's panic, amongst people who have been qualified that they may lose their jobs, because of AI. So what are the pros and cons of having AI then, if this may impact people, some people losing lives, people being retrenched, etc.? Or is this more advantageous than not having it?
Well, first of all, I think with AI, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. People don't know at the moment. I read so many different comments from people. So nobody knows which jobs are really going to be affected by AI. I would have thought in the welding area that there's less chance of the jobs. For example, the last person talking about working on the construction site. You still need people, hands, legs and brains to do those jobs. You know what I mean? You still need people doing the maintenance and so on. So we don't know how much AI will take over. We still need to teach AI in courses what's coming on, but what we need to do is, let's say, stand back, in my opinion, and let especially the young people who are coming into careers see that there are good careers that will keep them in jobs. But really, nobody can answer that. Do you know anybody who could answer it?
I think not possible.
It's at the moment, it's not possible.
At this
Germany,
point.
for example, I just read a big article on Germany. Germany, it was fantastic on the engineering, construction industry, brilliant. All these things you see, standards of the ISO and everything, so many have come from Germany. But Germany, the last 10 years, according to this big article, neglected the digitalization of things. And of course, they suffered. If you take America's grown, the Apple, Google, all these companies have grown in America, not in Germany, for example. So they believe that's affected their economy. So I don't know. It's a very, very difficult subject, this AI subject.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, another question I'd like to ask, though, over and above these two, this comprehensive welding inspectors. Now, at most, in South Africa, of course, it gets cancelled due to the amount of participation. In other words, they don't have enough, correct, or enough students to go for it. I think the minimum requirement is to have 4 students in a class, and that normally doesn't happen. Is there anything else that one can do, internationally or online that will allow you to do this comprehensive inspector's course.
Coming back to the marketing of it, there's lots of welding engineers being trained in South Africa, Pretoria University, Wits University, lots of technologists through SIW. So you've probably got a pool of people there, probably 250, 300 people, I'm just guessing. To me, you should be marketing to them the opportunities by them getting the comprehensive welding inspector. Seriously,
Yeah.
that is one way to get a group. So you've got to get all those names of all those people, and you're really doing this analysis of the needs, because if you take all the companies in South Africa, all the petrochem companies, power stations, and so on, as I said to the last gentleman, if they're welding engineers, the comprehensive welding inspector is a fantastic bonus for them. So I think it's a question of marketing them so you've got a decent sized group. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I just don't know. Look, I'm also one of the welding engineering people, but I did my level 1 and level 2 first, not the CSWIP, the South African kind, the IAW. And then I was waiting for level 3, for the comprehensive, which is like, I've been waiting now 3 to 4 years already, and it's not happening. Yeah, to reach out to them, it may be difficult because they may have to first do level 1 and level 2 before they get to the comprehensive again, or something to that effect. So I'm not sure if that's the route they should follow, to get to comprehensive.
Sorry, but you got to ask, do you need it? If you've got your level 1 and level 2, do you need your comprehensive? That's the question to ask. And so you might not need it. You might want to go and do something else. But if you believe you need it, it's up to now SIW to market it with all your help. Because I always found, back to the end users again, your SASLs, your power stations and so on, they are the type of organisations more likely to be able to send people initially, and then more and more will come as more and more people do the course and get the qualification.
You can reach out to me, Aubrey, then we can have the discussion further. I think the way Chris is saying, maybe have a different target market for that course, then it's something that maybe they will attract people. We've got 5 minutes left on the call. I'm going to take 2 last hands. We've got John, and then John, please go through.
Confidence, by the way, I'm not worried about time. If people, it doesn't worry me. I'll carry on answering questions, no problem.
Okay. Thank you, Chris, for the presentation. I learned so much from the presentation. I'm from Nigeria. I'm a quality manager. I have CSWIP 3.2. I have been interviewed by TWI as a wedding coordinator, comprehensive type. That is because my company has ISO 3834-2. But I do know that some clients who always want us to be, oh, you are not wedding engineer, you are wedding coordinator. I'm just asking, is there any program online that we can do from Nigeria, and maybe some sponsorship so that we can to support the growing industry in Nigeria, so that we can also have wedding engineering certificates? Thank you.
I didn't quite catch everything, but are you saying that you're not a welding engineer, a qualified welding engineer? You mentioned you've got ISO 3834, right? Part 2, that's fine.
Yes.
So you're asking me how you can become a welding engineer, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The IAW program does allow a lot more online training now. So there's no reason why, see, at the moment, SIW only does the technologist, not the engineer. So you could get the technologist course, do the technologist course through SIW. And I think Confidence, some of that's online, am I correct?
Yeah, we're able to accommodate some classes online. Obviously, the practical classes will have to be in person, but we have offered a hybrid system where people connect to the actual class online.
But one way we got over the practical side, Confidence, is this. If he's in Nigeria, if John, I think it is, if he's in Nigeria, he goes along to a local technical college, and for the 1 week, for the 40 hours, they train him in accordance with the hours in the IW document. That's what we used to do in Australia, and that's what other countries do as well. So in other words, it'd be a question of you recognising the college in Nigeria for him to do the 40 hours training there.
Okay, if I can get the recommended college in Nigeria, I will quickly go there too, because I can do online, but the question is the practical aspect, to resign from your work to go to do the practical. But if I have opportunity in Nigeria, that would be fine. Can I have the name of the recognized company, school, college in Nigeria, please?
John, what you can do, you can reach out to me, and then we can maybe take the discussion offline. Currently, there isn't anybody in Nigeria that we know, but we can communicate and see if there's anybody that we can link up with to assist with your training. I've got the next person is Donby.
Thank you, Confidence. Hello, colleagues. Chris, I just want to find out in terms of the NDT side of things. On one of your slides, I've noticed that you spoke about regulations of NDT. Is there any sort of regulatory body that you can refer me to in terms of how do they regulate NDT in different countries?
Well, the NDT, don't forget, the qualification certification is ISO 9712. The examination centres and the board, they come under 17024. So the qualification certification is tightly controlled, or supposed to be tightly controlled in each country. Now, which country are you in?
I'm in SA, South Africa.
Oh, well, in South Africa, you've got SIW, and you've got SAIN and the SAQCC. I don't know that I actually helped set up the SAQC NDT back in 1984, but I believe it's now by the government. When you use the word regulated, I don't think people are regulating it. The people are examined, or the organisations are examined against 17024, and then they have to comply with 9712 for the qualification and certification of the personnel. In terms of companies, in terms of inspection companies, which includes the NDT, the Canadian Welding Bureau has its own program for welding inspection and other inspection companies. And I think it's ISO 17020, I think, Confidence, which is the ISO standard for inspection bodies. So in terms of regulations, that's the key one, I think. It's not a regulation as such. The ISO standards are all voluntary, unless in a specification somebody insists that you meet it, but it's not a regulation as such. Does that answer your question?
I think I will have to email you something, for us to get to the bottom of, the question.
I'll tell you what to do. Send me an email with your question, a bit of detail, and I'll come back to you on it.
Okay, I will appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks. And then we've got Elena Lloyd.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say I'm really shocked at what I heard today. It's nice to hear where it all started and how it all came about, and to see that the people are still alive and still in industry. It's amazing. what I do want to say about the SAIW to all our neighboring countries within Africa, SAIW is very strong. They are leading the pack. I myself have only SAIW qualifications, and I worked in Russia. And the Russians couldn't understand my qualification, who we are, my experience, my age. So I think that you guys should team up with the Institutes of Welding from Southern Africa and try and find ways to get these training courses into your countries, specifically our syllabus, because if you look at worldwide, or let's look at South Africa, right? In South Africa, in our refineries at large, we've had a lot of explosions, a lot of problems, a lot of things that went wrong. So most of our people are very experienced in problem solving, troubleshooting, and preventative measures because of our experience. The SAIW syllabus is so strong. It made us so technical, so knowledgeable, so practical that we can go anywhere in the world just with the knowledge that we've learned in the classroom. And we're actually teaching the people that we're coming across in the industry. So to everybody on this meeting, you guys need to actually get in touch with Confidence and set up something for your countries and partner or work with the SAIW, see the syllabus, the modules, how they train people and develop people, the coaching, the mentoring, the experience, the care, the love, the detail, the passion. That is what we are bringing actually from the South African Institutes of Welding.
Thank you for the kind words, Lena. Appreciate it.
Okay, any more? Next question.
I think we've got Dr. Just gonna Adu.
Okay. Thank you, Confidence. Yeah. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. I'm very grateful for this this kind of webinar. I think it's very useful and very timely for us. I'm in Ghana, and with a training institution, a university that is offering welding program for students in the country. And though I have some hitches with my network, and as a training institution, how do we get fit into this this very opportunity so that at least our learners will have the best of training, that will have easy certification, so they can find themselves functioning everywhere globally, like the last caller just said. So how do I start to just roll my institution into this very opportunity so that learners can benefit from it? Did you get what I just said, Confidence?
Well,
Yes,
there
we
was
got that.
Lots of noise on the thing then, though, Confidence. What was the basic question in the end?
In the end,
I think the basic question, he wants to understand how he can basically get into the program and partner with SIW so that the training center that is currently running is up to par.
Okay, can I ask you a question and comment? Do you know Emmanuel?
Yes, I know.
Okay,
him.
well, what we're hoping is to do a 3-hour workshop on the model. You remember I showed the model very quickly when I went through the model? That model, I'm happy to do a 3-hour workshop, 3 or 4 hour workshop virtually with you, your small group in Ghana, to go through the model in more detail.
Okay.
So Emmanuel, if you liaise with Emmanuel, he will liaise with me.
Okay. All right, Grace. Thank you so much.
And that goes for any other country, by the way, because I know Kenya was attending, and Namibia and Nigeria and so on. If any other countries are also interested, just send me an email and we can talk, and then we can see whether we should run a 3 or 4 hour workshop going into greater detail on setting up the model.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm going to take the last two hands in the interest of time, Chris. I know we've got a lot of people that have a lot of questions to ask. I think they can maybe take this offline. I'm going to go through Emmanuel, and then lastly, we're going to do Philip before we close. Thank you. Emmanuel? Okay, Philip, please go ahead.
Okay, so good morning or good afternoon in other regions. So my name is Philip Edutechi from Ghana, and I am a certified welding inspector according to the UKAS. Now, I'm currently into welding skill training and also testing, that is mechanical and metallurgical testing laboratory services in a technical vocational education and training school, that's TVET school. And the school is Design and Technology Institute, DTI, in Accra, Ghana. Now, together with a team of inspectors, we've been able to implement a few of the models we've been talking about today. Especially, we used the one of AWS model, which is the SENSE program, right? Which at the end of the day, we are trying to offer entry-level intensive welding skill training to our learners as AWS SENSE level 1 students who goes out there to the industry to work. Now, I want to find out what is your advice regarding the trends in the welding industry, especially for the welding skill training area, and also in terms of welding quality control. What would be your advice on that? Which areas can we be focused?
I missed the last part. There's a bit of vibration on the sound when it comes through. You said, okay, you've got the SENSE programs from AWS. You've got a team of welding inspectors, yes. Correct? And then you said you got practical welding. And then what was the last part of the question?
Yeah. So the last part of the trends in the industry in relation to welding skill training and also welding quality control.
I'm sorry, I'm not grasping the very last bit.
Welding skill training, the trends in the welding training.
The trends,
okay,
different trends.
Actually, different trends in the welding industry regarding the training we are doing. Which areas should we focus on?
I'm not quite sure what the very last point is there. Yeah. The very last sentence.
He's saying, looking at the trends that are happening in industry, which courses should they focus on?
Oh, the trends. Sorry, trends. Yeah. Okay. Do you mean technology trends or manpower trends?
Manpower trends in relation to the welding skills.
What I would do, honestly, well, that kind of depends on the industry sector. Let's just talk welding skills for now. You remember I showed you the a nice slide of industry sectors, okay? Each industry sector would need different technologies. For example, if I'm putting up structural steel buildings, for example, I might be into flux cord welding, things like that. But if I'm working on a nuclear reactor, there's more reactors now being built around the world. So I'm going to need totally different processes, probably more mechanized processes, automated processes, and so on. So I think what you've got to say is, which industry sector are you going to tackle? And what's the priority in terms of the different industry sectors? Then say, well, what's the needs in that sector? In other words, what technologies are they going to apply to make the products? You know, we've got additive manufacturing's become a big thing. It's being used more and more, and IIW and the European Welding Federation now have qualifications for and training and qualifications for additive manufacturing. But again, that's limited to certain sectors, should we say. So I think you have to say, what sector is your priority, analysing the project, the structures and the products, what technologies are you going to need, not just welding, but things like the NDT technologies as well, you know? And then, like, is it the maintenance industry or is it a construction site industry? You need to analyse that first of all. And then what you also need to do is be up to date on what the latest technologies are that are available. Now, I don't know much about the companies you have in your country, but the Lincolns, the ESABs, the Hobarts, all these welding companies, they always got new technologies coming along. And that's where this technology support centre network is important. As a country, I would be setting up or getting those technology centres and put on workshops where they demonstrate the latest technology that they're using, maybe in their own countries. For example, a lot of the supply companies come from America, don't they? So if it's the construction industry, well, what technologies are the Americans using in their construction industry? So the companies supplying those technologies should be able to tell you in your country what they recommend to use in that particular industry sector. And that comes back to your training, doesn't it? In other words, what training then do you need to be able to put those welders on site, those NDT technicians on site or whatever? Does that make sense to what I'm saying to you? It's a big subject, but you really need to do the analysis of what's being made, what are the future directions, what technologies are going to be used on them, and that determines your training. But how to get that information, it's really the technology support centres and the welding engineers in the industry who are going to drive those decisions. And again, as I say, a lot of that tends to come from Europe or America, but the welding companies there supplying all the different technologies, and the same with the NDT. Are you from Ghana?
Yes, I'm from Ghana.
Okay, so if we do that little workshop, we can talk maybe in more depth in detail on that.
Great, great. Thank you.
Cheers.
All right. I think,
right.
Chris, we can
Hello?
close it. Hello?
Hello?
Is this Emmanuel? Are you back on that?
Yeah, this is
Yes,
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel, go ahead with your question. Yeah,
All
please go
right.
ahead.
Thank you very much, Confidence, for putting this together. And also thank you very much, Chris, for delivering this fantastic presentation. Actually, I am quite surprised that most people here don't have so much information about what is going on in their country in terms of the welding structures in the country. Looking at the questions they were posing, it's more like personal development questions where they can attain some certification and all that. So I think that this training or this webinar has been very good, and I urge everyone to take the information and try to contact, let's say, technical institutions in their countries, and make sure that we are going to work towards building or establishing these national welding capabilities. So then every country will be at that level where, you know, the citizens can have good education training in welding. So thank you once again, Chris, for putting this together.
Thank you.
I'll go back to Dr. Edu Jenfi's question. So we've been trying very hard to get Ghana on that level where we can establish ATBs, that is approved training bodies, and also to get Ghana become an ANB, which is the authorized national body. But now we have to start from the bottom. That's why we're trying to collaborate with SAIW. So myself and Chris, and also we will try to liaise with Confidence to see how best we can help Confidence Technical University to get to that level. And aside that too, we will look at how we can get Confidence Technical University becoming an ANB, because there's a window for that. Currently, we have Ghana Welding Bureau, which is the responsible member society of IIW. But it seems that there is very little being done at that in that institution. So we who are very committed in making sure that welding training and education is being streamlined across the country, we will do our best to get it to that level. So my final words is that I want to put it across to Confidence that I will be contacting you later on in the day so that we can start arranging some meetings with whichever institution in Ghana who is interested in getting an ATB, because in Africa, South Africa is at the top, and we can work together with Chris and get the ball rolling. So thank you very much. And my last word is for the guy from DTI. I am going to leave my email address here. You can contact me because we are planning to have a 3-hour section with Chris Smallborn. So everyone who is from Ghana can contact me, and I'll put you in the group so that we have a discussion with Chris and see the way forward. Thank you very much.
Cheers, thanks.
Thanks, Emmanuel. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for everybody that joined. Looking forward to taking this conversation further. I've popped in my email address there in the chat, and I've also left Chris's email address there. So please reach out. Really want to ensure that each and every country strengthens its national capability when it comes to welding, because we feel like welding, once welding is in the country, it's able to take away poverty, because there's so many opportunities available in this sector. Chris Bone, thank you so much for taking your time and sharing this presentation with us. It was very insightful. I think everybody in this call had an eye-opener so that they can go back to their countries and look deep what is available and what needs to get done. We really appreciate it. And for everybody that's been here, thanks for taking your time. I know we've went overboard a bit, but I think it was very important for us to continue with the conversation and not leave anybody hanging. Chris, any last words from your side before we close?
No, thank you everybody for listening. I don't know how many people turned up in the end, Confidence, but it would be good, I think, all those countries, all 21 countries, the offer to them that we could do the 3-hour workshop for them if they want to share theirs. Don't forget, every country's also got good experiences. So I would like to know good experiences as well, because we can build up all this knowledge in the resource centre, so everybody benefits. So everyone's got some good points they can share with everybody else, and now I'd like to encourage people to do that. So yeah. Thank you very much, and thank you, Confidence, for arranging it to your end, and also to Kim.
Yeah, thanks. All right, thanks everybody. Till we meet next year in the first quarter, we'll have our WIN webinars happening again next year. Have a great rest of the day or rest of the evening, depending where you are in the world. Thanks, cheers, bye.
Cheers, thank you, Confidence.
Bye-bye.
Thank everybody. Have a safe day, good day, and everything else, eh? Cheers.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.